One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Good evening, everybody. Don't laugh at me because I got to share something kind of funny with you before we begin the show, because I almost didn't make it tonight. Almost had to cancel the show, pack up the dogs, Robin, let's get the hell out of Dodge here, because what I'm going to show you is kind of weird. I don't know if you, and I feel bad saying this because I know some people are going through some incredible snowstorms up north, a nor'easter. Feet of snow happening up there. But, we've had some cold weather down here. I mean, it's actually been pretty chilly. I woke up this morning, took the dog out, and it was 47 degrees. So that, for us down here, that's really pretty cold. And it's also cold for, some of the Jurassic type animals down here. Not alligators, but, lizards and stuff like that. And of course, iguanas. So yesterday we noticed that there was a iguana, like a 6-foot one, hanging out at the top of our, I don't even know what you call it, vestibule, whatever. And he just stood there. I mean, he's hanging on the side of the wall. I'm like, Robin, I'm not going out that way in case he falls, because one of the things you have to acknowledge when you live in South Florida is when it gets cold, you have falling iguana warnings because they fall out of trees and off the roofs and things of that nature. I'm like, all right, I'll deal with it. All day long, he's been out there basically paralyzed on the wall. I'm like, okay, we're good. And so it just got a little bit dark, and so we flipped on the lights for the outside. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I get to see this. There's 2 of them out there. 2. There's 2 of them all the way up top in the vestibule area. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, no, we got to call somebody because now they're multiplying. And I'm waiting for Jeff Goldblum or somebody to come out at this point, because this is a little bit much for us to have to deal with. 2 giant 6-foot, and when I say 6 feet, I'm talking from head to tail. So those things that right there are about 6 feet long. They're huge, and they're just hanging out because it's cold on the other side of that cutout there. They don't want to be out there. They're going to be hiding inside. And I'm like, Robin, what are we going to do about them besides not using the front door? Do we need to call anybody? You going to call anybody? Oh, no, I'm not calling anybody because they'll tell me I'm a wuss. You're going to have to call. So I'm not going to call anybody. So meanwhile, we've got two invaders just hanging out there. Anybody want to come over and take care of them? I mean, I know they might make some good boots or handbags or shoes or something, but my gosh, of course we can't let the little dogs out that way. It's not like they would really, well, yeah, they could hurt the dogs. They don't eat them, but they could, those, as you can tell, they're gripping to the concrete wall. Those claws are quite sharp and they're big ones. So they could, they could bite you, not eat you, but bite you. They have been known to eat little kittens. We don't have a cat, so I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, that's what I get to look forward to outside the front door. Look up and just see these things sitting up there going, waving back at me. Like, can y'all, it's supposed to get warmer. Can you get going? Head out of here because I don't need this. It's bad enough we had to deal with the other invaders. I got to deal with the four-legged ones. Crazy. Just wanted to give you a little bit of comedy tonight. Real comedy. It's actually really happening. I could go out there and take a video. You can show it to you. But yeah, that's what we have to deal with here in South Florida. But I can't complain much. I know some of you guys are under winter storm warnings and it's like cold as hell out there. And for that, I hope you guys stay safe for the next couple of days. That is a minor inconvenience to what you guys are going through, those of you who live out north or out in the plains, because I wouldn't trade the 2 iguanas for 5 feet of snow. So salute to you guys. All right, that being said, spend a couple minutes just talking about that. Now let's segue into the show. If I gotta have to change the screen because I don't want to be looking at them the whole time as I'm talking. So yeah, let me just move this over here so I'm not looking at iguanas while I'm talking to you because that's the last thing I want to be seeing. All right, so anyways, I wasn't going to do a show today, not because of the iguanas. There just wasn't a whole lot going on. And Ashley said, there's a lot going on that people may not be aware of, and they don't know what your opinion is of it. So I'm going to give you my opinion on some of the stuff that's going on. And what's happening right now is people are starting to open their eyes, which is probably one of the worst things that the Democrats and the commies want, is for people to start seeing what's been happening. And it's more than Nick Shirley. In fact, people are saying maybe Nick Shirley was given the tip. I don't know, but now we're finding out this stuff goes all the way back to 2012, and it can just be a tremendous amount of money. Tremendous. We can't even comprehend what they've been doing to us as Americans. And so I know we get a lot of people who talk about, well, something needs to happen. Somebody needs to arrest somebody. We are not, I think at this point, you all have taken a giant freaking red pill, like a horse-sized red pill, and swallowed it and realized we're never going to arrest our way out of this. We are never going to vote our way out of this. There is only one way. I just wish people would stop talking about arrest, because I'm going to show you a clip here right now that as you listen to this, you realize there is no freaking way we can stop what's happening without something drastic occurring. When I say drastic, you know what I mean. Anybody sitting around waiting for arrest, go ahead and smoke a joint or something. You're high. It ain't going to stop this. Our country has been taken over. That's the first big giant red pill. They have taken over our country without even firing a shot. They have stolen money from you for decades. You had nothing you could do about it. And now it's so big. There's no way we could arrest all these people. Listen to this.
Somali daycare powerhouse quality Learing Center has closed. If you need to Lear your kids, you will need a new daycare. The nation is being seized by what Zero Hedge calls the Nick Shirley effect, as hundreds of citizen journalists fan out exposing what looks like tens of billions, perhaps trillions, of government fraud. What's been found so far focuses on the Somali community, where despite nearly 90% of these model migrants being on welfare, they've managed to set up tens of thousands of apparently fraudulent daycares, autism therapy centers, food for kids programs, and home health companies. To give a flavor, there's apparently one Somali healthcare company per 3 Somalis in the nation. Somali-run autism grants in Minnesota now run $399 million a year. That's up from $3 million 7 years ago. Somali child nutrition scams were actually prosecuted for $300 million stolen, after which even more scams sprung up while the city and state turned a blind eye lest anybody call them racist.
Lesson number 1, anybody calls you a racist, give them the middle finger and tell them to get lost. That ain't going to work anymore. And as you're hearing Peter St. Onge talk about this, he's giving you absolutely scary numbers. A fraud per every 3 people. So basically look at how many people are in the chat and multiply that times 3, and that just gives you an idea of the scale, the massiveness of what these people have done with the cooperation of people in the government, with the cooperation of people in the media. Make no doubt about it. The government had to facilitate this, and the media had to look the other way. It could not have happened any other. There's no other way that this kind of stuff could have happened. And right now, the waking up is people have to realize, yes, we're praying people, but oh my gosh, are there really that many scumbags in America? And obviously, there are, foreign and domestic. So if you think you're going to vote your way arrest your way out of 1 every 3 people, it ain't going to happen. The manpower just isn't there. And even if you did arrest all these people, the judges are just going to let them back out because they're probably getting greased at the same time.
So far, it comes to an estimated $8 billion of Somali fraud in Minnesota alone, roughly $250,000 per Somali household, meaning the roughly 65,000 Somali adults in Minnesota managed to steal more than the entire GDP of the nation of Somalia.
They've stolen more money than their entire country generates. And at this point, I would probably be hard-pressed to say they've stolen it. If the government is giving you these ways to line your pockets, I would just go into court and say, hey, they told me to fill out these forms. I don't know. I'm not from here. I filled out the forms. I got paid. No, that's just, I don't even know what's going on. They just told me, open up this building, rent this place, do this, and you'll get paid. And then vote Democrat. This is beyond the pale. And like I titled my thumbnails, like, okay, now the time is for people to have some introspection and begin thinking, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Too many people sitting back saying, oh, President Trump needs to do this and Pam Bondi needs to do that. How big of a staff do you think she has? One of the best things that came out of this scandal is that there are so many people digging now. And they're just touching the surface. There's so many people looking at this stuff going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. Believe it. See, that's the other part of it. When you say, I can't believe it, now we need to be focusing and going, I believe it. I believe at this point that our government, our media have been complicit in stealing from its citizens for a long time. A long time and a ton of money.
So Saudi Arabia has oil, China has factories, Somalia has quality leering centers. Unfortunately, Somalis are just the tip of the iceberg. A new study found half of New York City is on Medicaid.
Which will lead us to the commie that just got sworn in yesterday. Half. Remember, that's a big city. There's 9 million people in New York City. Half 4 million are on Medicaid. 4 million I don't know how many of them are able-bodied. I'd say about 90% of them are able-bodied, are taking your money with Mondami's smile, with Eric Adams' smile, with Kathy Hochul's smile. We have been used, abused, and set out by the curb. As long as you could go to work and be a productive member of their society, they don't care about you. Your earning potential is something they've calculated, they've looked at and figured out how much of what you make they can steal. Which tells you the government had to be involved. It wasn't until this year that I realized just how deep this so-called deep state goes. You know, we always thought the clandestine stuff overseas and doing things, and now we know it's all the way down to probably the dog catcher in your local town. The entire vertical, all of it is just one diseased temple. That's from the movie. All of it. Now it's just a matter of pulling the onion layers back, even in your own town. What can you do? Hey, what can you do about it? How can we do it? Start looking at your local government. All of this stuff should be public record. Start looking. Disclose it. Post it. There are people in your hometown right now who aren't aware of what's going on. There are people here in my hometown who aren't aware of what's going on. I'm trying to tell them. Just because it's the Somalis in Minnesota doesn't mean it's not XYZ where you live. They have found a way to create something, and they're still doing it. I'm going to show you what Tim Waltz is still doing and how it's being exploited, and it's never going to end. Nope, not going to end. They chop off one head, it just keeps going. There are probably Somalis in Minnesota who have retired. I made 8 million. I'm done. You're never going to catch all these people. I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, but that's a pill that you're going to have to swallow right now. Stop looking at Pam Bondi. We are not going to arrest our way out of this. Here, listen, he's going to give you a stat, and when he gives you that stat, you're going to go, listen to this.
Note, average income in New York City is $81,000 for the household. Nearly 40% of New Yorkers are foreign-born, meaning they are getting free care when the rest of us who pay for it shell out tens of thousands for insurance. A 2023 City of New York survey found foreigners, this is not foreign-born, but actual foreigners, occupy nearly a third of public housing and over 40% of rent-controlled and stabilized units in the city. California is even worse. The state auditor recently tallied $70 billion in fraud, including $2.5 billion of SNAP fraud and $24 billion in fraud for...
See, that's one of the problems. The numbers are staggering. 74 billion, 25 billion, a trillion. That didn't happen yesterday. There have been people in our government, Democrat and Republican, who looked the other way while doing this probably. Now it's becoming clear to you why they had to kill President Trump, why they had to get rid of him. This stuff would never be seen. It was never designed to be seen. You notice how fast, I mentioned this the other day, the Epstein stuff, nobody's talking about it. The media keeps trying to deflect and go back to it, but this story is so big, it's only a matter of time before basically everybody is consumed by it. Because if you're working, if you have worked, if you have paid taxes, if you're working and taxes are being taken out of your paycheck right now, you have been used. The only people right now who are like, I don't care, are the people who have been willing participants in the scam. Every single working person must be sitting back once they find out and going, you got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. Nope, believe it.
homelessness. The fraud industrial complex, of course, took off during COVID. The Small Business Administration estimates $64 billion in fraudulent PPP loans. Other estimates run to $8 billion. Given the median PPP loan was $20,000, that implies 4 million people should be in prison.
Until he said that, I even thought we could arrest a lot of them. Where are we going to put 4 million people? How are we going to arrest 4 million people? I mean, I can stop the show right now and you guys can start thinking to yourself, wait a second. 4 million? By the way, that's one state. That's one state. Who knows what's going on in California, New York, Florida? There is no mathematical way possible that we could arrest 4 million crooks. They beat us in that regard. They have won in that regard. They know you can't stop us. There's way too many of us. Unfortunately for them, they may be 4, 5, 6 million crooks, but there's 80 million of us. We outnumber them. And I'm not saying to go grab the shotgun and start picking people off. What I'm saying is we need to help, like Nick Shirley, like 90 other people I saw today who are out there taking pictures, showing up everything, digging, learning how to use AI to find this stuff, and then telling everybody who doesn't know.
Toss in the COVID-era economic injury loans, where up to $200 billion was stolen, implying another 2 million felons.
So 6 million potential thieves. Let that sink in. Can you even calculate? I guess I could. If it took an hour to go in and arrest somebody and get them processed times 6 million, you're way past 4 years. So Barry, this sounds really bad. It is really bad, which means there's only one way to fix it. So instead of saying, I don't see any arrest, what's the other one? Pam Bondi should be fired. There's nothing Pam Bondi can do for this. It wouldn't even matter if she arrested 100 people. There's millions of thieves. So what we've got to do is focus on President Trump and supporting what he's about to hopefully do. There's nothing else. This country's done. When people post and say, there's no arrest yet, nobody's been arrested, forget it. I'm telling you right now, as you're hearing these numbers, if you have a sane mind about you, you're like, there's no possible way. Actually, there's two things that could happen, but the second one's a lot harder. And that is for people not to pay any taxes. They thought of that too, like I told you back in 1913, where it comes right out of your paycheck. You don't even have the option of saying no. They knew what they were going to do. They knew how they were going to set it up so that they would have a never-ending supply of money, a lot of money to do whatever they wanted. They know. They knew from 1913, if we just send people a bill every April, there are going to be people taking and go, toss that. I'm not paying anymore. Now, what's interesting, if they can't arrest millions of Somalians and other crooks, how are they going to arrest all the people who aren't going to pay their taxes? We're approaching Armageddon. Because there are a lot of people who are entrepreneurial and things of that nature who maybe file their W-2 as exempt who are like, I'm not paying it. I'm not advising that because nobody's going to come back and say, Barry told me not to pay taxes. Want nobody knocking on my door. But you know for sure there are going to be a lot of people who said, I'm done. I am completely done giving my livelihood to a government that's got me bent over and screwing me. Never going to advise that. But you can tell it's brewing at this point. You can tell that's where we're headed. I don't think Trump would prosecute. I don't think Scott Bessent would prosecute. I can't prove that. But you then have to realize if millions of Somalis and other people have been stealing the money, what would happen if millions of Americans just said, I'm done? What would happen at that point? I can give you a hint. You're seeing it right now in the silver market. If you haven't been following along and seeing what's been going on, you can tell the banks are trying to suppress this. It's way over $100 an ounce in Shanghai. Across the world, it's flying, and they're trying everything because at 75 and 76, the banks collapse. If the banks collapse, there's nowhere to move that funny money. Plus, other things would suffer if the banks collapse. Do your homework. Find out how much money the Federal Reserve has been shoving into the economy to cover these banks. You might be shocked. You may say to yourself, you might as well be Somali, Jerome Powell. You're doing the exact same thing. You're taking our money and you're giving it to these bankers. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done. So as I said in the thumbnail, it's up to you. What are you going to do at this point? Pretty soon it's going to be, unfortunately, every man for himself, every woman for himself. You are going to have to make some very hard decisions. Decisions you weren't prepared to make. Decisions that you shouldn't have to make. You've gone to work. You've done everything correct. You've taken care of your family. You've paid your taxes religiously. And now you're all finding out, like, oh, nah, this can't be real.
Take Minnesota Somalis, multiply by 20 plus blue states, dozens of nationalities. For example, 8 Indian gas stations in Texas got $32 million in SBA loans, in case you wonder why Indians own all these 7-Elevens.
How come nobody told Americans, hey, listen, there's money for you. You could open a gas station. And then you're going to have a convenience store. How come Americans didn't get that notice? Why are all these people coming over here and get to open 7-Elevens and convenience stores? It's the exact same thing as the daycare centers. That group of people figured out something too. Hey, wait a second. All we got to do is talk to an oil company and, some snack food and some junk food and some Pepsi and some Coke. And so we have a little store going on at the same time. We're selling gas. Yeah. And you're going to give me the money to open the store. Or 3 or 4. Yeah. Think of that the next time you pull up to a convenience store.
Now, longstanding government estimates of fraud run north of $500 billion a year. Elon Musk thinks it's closer to $1.5 trillion, which seems right given what's being exposed. That would be roughly half of income taxes, leading many Americans to suggest perhaps we should stop paying tax until government gets control of the fraud.
Now, Elon has determined with Doge and looking at what's going on and digging in that our deficit, what we have, is not real. It is only that way because us suckers have to keep paying for it. If we were able to stop the fraud, there's a good chance. You ready for this one? People have been doing the math. If the fraud was stopped, just stopped, forget everything else. If we stop the fraud, people are estimating that anybody making $200,000 to $400,000 a year under wouldn't have to pay any taxes. That's how bad it is. Just imagine that. Whatever you're making, if it's under $200,000, they have done the math and figured there's no reason for you to even be paying income taxes. None. It's all fraud. All the way up.
The left is responding exactly how you'd expect. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz calls Somali fraud probes, quote, white supremacy, while MSNBC says Trump's making it all up because he is racist. but Shirley has set off a nationwide effort by citizen journalists to expose fraud, incentivized by the fact whistleblowers get 15 to 30% of recoveries.
Hold on. There was somebody just a second ago had put in the chat that it sounds negative and it's got a lot of negativity. There's your payoff. So if you start digging and find fraud, you could claim up to 10 to 15% of that fraud. Like, wait a second. So I know this Somali daycare center has been taking $800,000 a year. I can make 80 grand. Yep. Start digging. That was part of what I wanted to tell you tonight. People like, what can I do? Stop bitching about people needing a rest and start finding the fraud and turning them in. Bet you a lot of people didn't know that. Wait a second. You're telling me if I find these people who are doing this stuff and I turn them in, I could make 10 to 15% of the recovery? Yep. There's a whole new business model right there. I'm thinking about starting investigative services going after daycare centers. God help you. You better have a good one. You better have a legit one because everybody else is going to be looking at everything you're doing. For 10 to 15% of hundreds of millions of dollars? And you don't even have to be in that state. You can, and it's supposed to be public record. Let me put in New Jersey. Boom. Oh, okay. Let's look into all these daycare centers, these assisted living facilities, these medical transport companies, the autistic centers. Libs of TikTok today posted something. I don't have it with me, but she found out one of the ladies who was with the Feed the Future or something, who scammed money there, owned 44 daycare centers. 44.
In case you are looking for a side gig, 100 million Americans are now pissed off unless they see a lot of people in handcuffs. We're this close to a taxpayer revolt the IRS could not hope to keep up with.
See, I'm never going to be the one to tell you, but I think what you're seeing is if we can't catch the Somali bad guys, how in the hell are you going to go after the people who don't pay their taxes? I don't know. You don't have the personnel to put these people in cuffs. You don't have the personnel to do as many deportations as we need. You're going to stop doing all that and start going after the people who said we've had enough? I don't think so. Again, I'm not giving anybody advice. I don't want anybody to come at me and say, well, Barry said we got to pay our taxes. I am not saying that. I'm saying you have to make your own personal choices. You have to weigh the good and the bad. You need to begin talking and telling everybody and spreading the word that we're not going to arrest our way out of this. It is what it is. I don't mean this to be somebody said a negative thing. I'm trying to tell you the good thing, what you can do, not what you are waiting to see happen. Big difference. 1 second here. All right. So, did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years in 2014? And global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. This is due to more toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil and our food, and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. And with that, I wanted to show you this study that they came out with, and this study says that scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping protect them and delay aging at the cellular level. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi 1. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, your metabolism, and your skin health from the inside out. As we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats. Kimchi One is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins, while boosting your immunity and your energy. Best of all, Kimchi One is 100% made in the USA. It's all natural and non-GMO. It supports your gut, protects your cells, and helps you feel younger every single day. With Kimchi One from Brightcore. And Brightcore has been on the show a number of times, and I wanted to show you this. Hold on. Yep. Okay, 1 second here. And here's what you can do. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link in the description below, or just use the code BARRY for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now at 888-418-6738. And just like that commercial about Hair Club for Men, I'm actually a Brightcore user myself. This one is the Fortify. I use this all the time. It's got all kinds of amino acids in it. So they make some good products, and I don't feel bad about having them as partners on the show. All right, I'll be right back.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
I'm looking at some of the comments here. The real KRO says this one. This is not legal advice, but he says change your number of dependents on your W-2, and when it comes tax time in April, claim actual dependents. You will owe money, and that's when you basically say, I'm done. I gave at the office. We should look back into French history, how they solved their problems. Just saying. Like Marie Antoinette. Let's see here. Somebody says, you are all brainwashed like scared sheeple. Go for it. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. That is insane. Rise up, people. Jimmy says, yes, you got to rise up. Somebody asked me what is happening in Iran. I'm going to get to that next, so we can talk about what is going on in Iran, because most of the media isn't even talking about it. But I just wanted to show you, this came out about 4:30, and how it further is showing you how this fraud is not receding, it's actually amplifying. If you can just believe that, at this point, the fraud is amplifying in Minnesota. On January 1st, a new law went into effect. And you're not going to believe this, or maybe you will. 1 day into Minnesota's paid leave program, and 12,000 people have already applied. If they each use just 8 weeks of the 20-week benefit at the median wage, that's roughly $85 million in payouts from 1 day of applications. The next fraud scam is underway. 1 day. 1 day, it's likely that $85 million is about to fly out the door. And I was reading that law, and there was a clause in it where Tim Waltz was talking, and he says it's for this person, that first person, and for small business owners. I'm like, wait a second. What small business owner is going to take 20 weeks away from their business? If you're a small business owner and you take 20 weeks away, you don't have a business. A 20-week benefit is absolutely insane. For those of you who are math challenged, that's 5 months. That's nearly half the year. You're telling me somebody with a small business is going to say, all right, I'm done. I'm closing up because whatever. Then you don't have a business. So it's a scam on its face. General Michael Flynn, most of you guys know, posted this. Please tell me why I or anyone should pay federal, state, or local taxes. We're now potentially over $1 trillion stolen by corrupt politicians and their illegal cronies in numerous states that allow children leering centers and other money-sucking criminal child care and medical support chop shops. What the hell is going on? Real Donald Trump, please, sir, we need to hear from you. Leaving this up to this DOJ isn't going to do the trick. That's a little wink and a nod. It's exactly what I've been telling you. DOJ can't fix this. Your vote can't fix this. The military, which some people don't want to see happen, is the only way. Because as more and more people unplug from this obvious matrix that they've been in, it's going to get dangerous. People are going to get pissed. Right now, it's young people going out and taking videos in front of these daycare centers. But it could turn really hot very quickly when people take it personally that they can't even go on vacation and these people have millions of dollars. But like I said in the opening, I believe this could it could possibly get even worse. So I don't know if you've been following what's been going on over in Iran. Media won't talk about it, which shows again that they're complicit with the deep state. They don't want anybody knowing what's going on in Iran. Well, there's an uprising where people are done with the mullahs, the Ayatollah Asaholas. They don't want it anymore. The women are ripping off the hijab. The women are out there wearing skirts. The people are going into the streets. They're done with it. Which is funny because at the same time as they're done with it, we got people in New York trying to take up the mantle. It's insane. People who have lived under it for years and years and years are saying no more. And we got New Yorkers going, yes, give me some of that. And that's spreading as well. We can't let that happen. We have to, and we collectively, collectivism. We have to do something about it. Donald Trump has basically told the Iranians, you're not going to want this smoke. If Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump. So he's warning Iran, if you try to stop these kids, if you start trying to kill these kids or disappearing them, we're coming. Which probably means we're already there. I think any of you guys who are in military, the commander-in-chief's not saying that if there hasn't already been some sort of contingency or plan in place. If they start offing kids tonight, it ain't going to be a week before we get there. So you got Venezuela about to fall. Possibly as a domino, we can see Cuba about to fall. And now Iran could be about to fall. And Ukraine could be about to fall. There is so much stuff happening because the money is being turned off. How bad is it? Oh, this is how bad it is. Excuse me. Iran orders their banks to prep for system-wide collapse. A secret letter from Iran's central bank just leaked, and it's nothing but bad news. Every major bank has been told to enter full emergency mode immediately. The letter warns of attacks, blackouts, and loss of control scenarios. Banks are being ordered to secure their data, activate backup systems, and keep money moving even if everything collapses. You know what that means? Keep paying out. This isn't a drill. The directive is classified, urgent, and lays out exactly how to keep the financial system alive when the government falls apart. This isn't about regular protests. Their panic shows they're expecting something far worse. They're prepping for a meltdown where cities go dark, systems crash, and people panic. When banks start planning for survival, it means something serious is coming. And I bet you haven't even heard that in the media. The media doesn't want you to know this. Again, it shows, it's evidence of their complicit nature. Why would you not be talking about the bank system in Iran being on the precipice of collapse? Because they don't want people talking about it. That's your job. It's your job to let people know, hey, there's a letter here that says the banks are about to go poop. Now you also know what some of the silver stuff is. Trump's sitting back, and he's already executed a lot of the things that has brought us to this point. And now we're seeing what's happening, and we got people here saying, oh, nobody's arrested. Can you not see how the dominoes are all lining up? If Iran goes down, if Ukraine goes down, if Venezuela goes down, who, by the way, now wants to cut a deal, you're seeing a complete change of power throughout the world. President Trump was supposed to meet with an ambassador of China tonight. I don't know if they're going to turn the cameras on or not, but that's supposed to happen on a Friday night in Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago. Somebody yelled at me for that. All of this is happening concurrently with America going crazy. Absolutely bat poop crazy. See, one of the things that is happening right now that I think even the Democrats know, well, I'm going to show you, they do know that the Insurrection Act is the only thing Trump can do at this point to stop all of this. Because when I don't want to say if, when he does this, Katie barred the door. There is no way to do it a little bit. It's going to require going after bankers, politicians, all the way down to the state level. That's where you come in. You're going to have to start digging and giving it more information that they may not have. I want to show you what happened today with Mondami. Let's talk about him for a little bit, shall we? Because it's just very weird to me that we're watching the rest of the world, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, all these countries are basically doing agonal breathing, and the biggest city in America decides they want to take up the flag. It's not going to end well. So obviously they're chanting, tax the rich. And he's sitting there smiling like a canary. It's funny. When not a single one of those people in there can define what is rich. It's easier to point at somebody else and say, they got a big house and they got a nice car and they go on vacations. We need to tax them. At this very same time, we're watching a tax scam of epic proportions. The timing here is really bad, Mondami. We're seeing what your compadres have done across the country. At the same time, you're riling people up to, tax them some more. That ain't going to go well. By the way, did you notice if you watched the inauguration at all, 5, 6, maybe 10,000 people showed up? You realize that New York has 8 million people. That means the overwhelming amount of people in New York told this guy to go pound sand. So I'm venturing to say that the first part of this new American Revolution may take place in New York. He's coming on strong, and they're out there going tax the rich. And they're like, I don't know how that's going to work out, bro. Seriously.
We will govern without shame and insecurity, making no apology for what we believe. I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist. I will not abandon my principles for fear of being deemed radical. As the great senator from Vermont once said, what's radical is a system which gives so much to so few and denies.
So in that picture right there, as you're looking, hold on, let me move my camera over a bit. You got Bernie. I think that's Bernie's wife. You got AOC, you got Letitia James, and you've got Kathy Hochul all sitting there clapping. Tax the rich, eat the rich. Not realizing you're in a city right now where I don't know how you define rich, but depending on how you would define it, there's a lot of rich people right in the immediate area who can probably hear him in the crowd saying this, who are probably getting ready to pack up their stuff because they can't define the stuff that they actually say. What's rich? And if you answer that question yourself, you realize there is no answer to that because the person sitting next to you, somebody in the chat would say, that's not rich. Well, what if somebody's got 5 million? Well, the person's got 5 million, like, that's not rich. What's the definition of rich? How much do you want to take? And most importantly, where's it going? See, we've just seen over the last 3, 4, 5 days, you've been taxing and taxing and taxing and basically been stealing our money. And his first day in office, very first day, I'm going to do everything a socialist should do. I'm going to tax the rich. And right now, rich people go, are you watching the news, bro? Are you seriously watching what has been uncovered? And that's the road you want to take?
So many people the basic necessities of life.
The basic necessities of life. Who doesn't have the basic necessities of life? Because obviously, if I'm looking at people in the audience, they have the basic necessities of life. I don't see any skinny people looking like they're about to fall over. So they got food. I don't see anybody with no clothes on, so they got clothing. They had to get there. They got transportation. Which of the basic necessities of life is not being fulfilled in New York? I'll wait. Answer that. Has nothing to do with the basic necessities. It doesn't have the basic necessities in Minneapolis. It's nothing about basic necessities. You need a roof, you need some food, you need some transportation, and you need some water. That's your necessity. And also safety, which he didn't even mention. Those are your basic necessities. So what exactly is he planning that the New Yorkers aren't paying attention about?
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
So there's people in that audience who have no freaking idea what he just said. And if you don't know what he just said, I'm going to talk to you about that for a second. We are going to replace the frigidness of individualism with collectivism. It's no longer about you. You are not going to be able to achieve. It is not important for you to achieve on the social ladder. Nope, that's no longer going to happen. We are going to go way beyond socialism. We are going to be full-on communist. There is no other way to look at that. He just said it. Let me just show you something. Tell me if any of you want to live this way. All right, so I went and I looked up individualist. And what is an individualist? All right, let me just put this up on the screen for you. Individualism is a moral stance, political philosophy, and ideology and social outlook that emphasize the worth or central role of the individual, a person who is independent and self-reliant. We are going to replace people who want to be independent and self-reliant. They're ripping into the soul of Americans and saying, no, you no longer have to be a productive member of society. You no longer have to be someone who wants to succeed. You no longer have to be someone who wants to produce for your family. Nope, none of that. Nope, you don't have to be independent and self-reliant. Which first and foremost, I had to go ask my wife, what are all these women who had women lib going to do all of a sudden? I mean, wasn't the entire movement of women's liberation about I am woman, hear me roar, I don't need a man? It was about individualism. It was specifically about, I'm going to do it on my own. Sisters are doing it. I'm self-reliant. An advocate of the social theory favoring freedom of action for individuals or over the collective or state control. And he just came in his first day and said, we ain't going to do that no more. So you sisters out there who've been doing it for yourself, you've been self-reliant, you've been independent, you're about to put on a hijab and go under Sharia law. I didn't say it. He just said, we're going to do away with individualism. Oh, no, you can't wear your hair a certain way. You can't wear that kind of a dress. You can't stand out. You can't wear that necklace. You can't drive that car. No, that's all gone. All of that is gone. A person who's independent and self-reliant, that's individualist. He just said, we ain't going to do that no more. God help us, but you ain't voting your way out of this. There are 8 million people in New York, maybe 4 million women if you go 50-50. And I don't know how many of them are okay with them no longer having an individualistic look on life. You are now going to be part of the collective. If that didn't make people just completely chill, even the ones who are standing there, Kathy Hochul, you're a governor, and he just told you to your face, no more success. As you read through this, relating or characterized by a habit or principle of being independent and self-reliant, relating to denoting a social theory favoring freedom of action for individuals over collective or state control. And on his first day, he said that ain't going to happen. We are here to make it about the collective. It's all downhill after that. Oh, it's coming. And I know I lived in Connecticut. I saw a lot of women in New York. There are a lot of women up there who thought they were strong, single. I'm doing this. I don't need a man. Not anymore. So while they're sitting there cheering about tax the rich, yeah, and we don't need any more individuals. If you didn't know what that means, you know now. How's that feel? Now, you may not be in New York, but the same thing, I want to ask you, how's it feel? How's it feel if somebody told you you are no longer responsible for being self-reliant? I'm going to take that attribute out of your soul and tell you, no longer am I looking for you to be self-sufficient. Men, goes for you too. Nope, you don't have to succeed. You don't have to climb the ladder of success. Don't worry about that. There is no individualism. Oh, you throw touchdowns? Don't worry about that anymore. Everybody wins. It's freaking scary. At the very same time, We're seeing these people steal us blind in Minnesota. You got this idiot talking about, hey, we're about to do it here too, on a grand scale.
If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
All right, so understand what he just said there. I don't care where you come from. I don't care this. I don't care that. We're all New Yorkers, which I shall now be in charge of. Which means all you people out here who are New Yorkers, we're going to have to give up your entire ideology of self-reliance. I'm sure that is pretty good for some people because they're like, okay, the government's going to take care of me. No, the government's not taking care of anybody. See, that's the first mistake. He can't do shit. He doesn't have any money from the government. He has to take it from other people. I don't think this thing can succeed. I see this going south very quickly and getting very violent in New York City. When people start saying, oh, I can't live this way. I can't afford to move to Florida or Texas, but I can't do this either. And notice who he came up on stage with.
Now, all of us have heard as Iran's opponents have called the agenda that he campaigned on radical, communistic, and absolutely unachievable. Really? That's not what we believe. In the richest country in the history of the world, making sure that people can live in affordable housing is not radical.
Hey, Bunny, how do you think we became the richest country in the world? Why are the Somalians all over here? How did we become so successful, so wealthy as a country? The very thing that you have a problem with is the very thing that you absolutely need as a commie. People here achieved. In the very same vein as you're saying, we don't need to do it this way. We just need to take your money that you made. The only way this country became wealthy, the only way this country became as large and magnificent as it is because self-reliance. The ability to keep going, to succeed. And your boy just said, we're not doing that here. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I would ask Bernie straight up, you just said this is the wealthiest country in the world, right? Yeah. And how did it get that way? Huh? How did it get that way? Because people succeeded. Titans of industry, of business. They kept pushing. They kept going further. And you are now telling people, that's not how it's supposed to be. We're just going to take your money. Thanks for, what you did so far. And trust me, since they never defined rich and they never defined fair share, nobody gets off here. Nobody escapes. Nobody.
It is the right and decent thing to do. And in the midst of a massive housing crisis, it is exactly what the people of this city and this country want and need.
See that crowd? That's the crowd in front, in front of City Hall in a city of 8 million people. Don't let the media or anybody else tell you there was a huge crowd. That's not a huge crowd. There are more of you here than are there. That is probably the extent of the Commieville in New York. Who knows how they manufacture some of the votes to get this guy elected? But I'm looking at this and going, well, probably 7,985,000 people didn't show up. You know why they didn't show up? They're working, Bernie.
Providing free and high-quality child care is not radical.
I told you that they didn't read the room. Free child care. Wait, isn't that what they're doing up in Somalia? I mean, Samasoda? Isn't that the exact same thing? Here it is, his first day, and he's like, we're going to do it too. Just like they're doing in Minnesota. We're going to give everybody everything free, but the only way we can do it is to steal your money. I bet you there's people opening up daycare centers right now in New York City. I bet you over the next month there's going to be 4,000 or 5,000 daycare centers. On the very same day that we're dealing with all this crap, he gets on stage and says, I'm going to give it all to people up here too.
Countries all over the world have done it for years. It is what our kids require if they're going to be well prepared for school and what working parents desperately need. It is, in fact, what every city in America should be doing.
See that? So they're looking to spread it. We need to do more of this stuff, what they did in Minnesota. Minnesota, that's just the model. That's not the end. That's the beginning. We saw them steal $90 gazillion. We saw them give it, one person owning 40 different daycare centers. By the way, isn't that the exact opposite of collectivism? I mean, if one Somalian guy owns 20 daycare centers and is pulling down, I don't know, $700,000-800,000 a month, he's way past the collective. Shh, don't say that, Barry. Nobody's supposed to notice that. Well, I'm just saying. You just said individualism is bad, yet all these people in Minnesota are stealing people blind, making money, enjoying capitalism, flying across the country, putting cash in suitcases. Something ain't jiving here. Your message is for idiots who don't think.
Free bus transportation is not radical.
Yeah, it is, because there's no such thing as free. Somebody's making the bus. Somebody's driving the bus. Somebody is going to have to pay for free. When I had the grandkids down here and, we went around, everything was free for them. They haven't learned yet. It's free because granddad, grandma, mom, dad are paying for it. And they're the greatest kids because actually they do realize, they do understand somebody else is providing something for them. And here are these adults sitting in front of Bernie Sanders like, it's going to be free. And you're telling me my 10, 11-year-old granddaughter says thank you, and these people don't even understand. Oh, thank you. Thank you, mister with the money. No, they think it's free.
It will save workers time and money, protect our environment, and make the city more efficient. And making sure that every family in the city, regardless of income, has access to decent, quality food at an affordable cost is not radical.
So you're saying that people in the city right now, regardless of how much they make, is what he just said, don't have access to good food. I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but 24/7, you can eat. There are some of the best restaurants there used to be some of the best restaurants in the world. Going to Times Square, the deli right across the street makes sandwiches like that. There's all kinds of food. Ray's Pizza. Who's not eating in New York City? Obviously not the people you're talking to. So who is it that's not eating?
Good nutrition keeps us healthy, helps prevent chronic illnesses. In the long run, city-sponsored grocery stores will save society money.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. I'm almost ready to go to New York City and like open up a bodega. When they don't have anything, you'll come here and buy what you need because they're going to run out of stuff. They don't know how to do it. They have mismanaged everything. And so you want free buses and you want city-owned grocery stores. It doesn't work. It's never worked. All you've got to do is take a sky shot or Google Map or Google Earth rather, and look at the difference between South Korea and North Korea. One has lights, the other one doesn't. It's very easy to look at some of these places. Dominican Republic, oh, very nice. All kinds of lights and resorts. Haiti, dirt cookies. What don't they understand? Have they never been to Cuba?
Lastly, and maybe most importantly, demanding that the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes.
I wanted to punch his smiley face when I saw that. I wanted to drive to New York and just give him one. Just black lady standing up talking about fair share. And it looks like she's got a weave of some sort and she had big earrings on and a nice coat. Can anybody, even in the chat, can any of you define fair share? I have often asked that on X. I used to spend time going into wading into the sewer of liberalism, and I would ask people, can anybody tell me what fair share is? Does this unicorn have a definition? Nope. It never will. Because fair share is what they will determine it is. That's why they can never put a definition on it. I mean, seriously, if you ever want to have fun talking to a liberal, ask them that question. Can you tell me what fair share is? Hey, I'm not fighting with you. I really just want to know. Can you tell me what fair share is? I haven't been able to find out in years. I keep hearing it. What does this unicorn look like? Where does this unicorn get fed? Please, just tell me. I'm an ignoramus. Tell me what fair share is. No one will ever tell you. I challenge you to get on X and wade into some liberal things and just go, can anyone tell me what fair share is? I've been looking around. I'm trying to get some education here. And I can't see anybody tell me what fair share is. They will never tell you. Because part of being in the collective is that they will define what fair share is. Fair share is going to be how many more people need some of your money. And what you've seen thus far, now being revealed in California, having been revealed in Minnesota, is that fair share is whatever we need to take from you to keep the grift going. Fair share should be a percentage of what the country needs to do certain things. They never want to do that. I mean, at one point somebody said we do a consumption tax and we wouldn't even have to worry about income tax. Nope, didn't want to do that. Well, poor people going to have to pay more. No, they don't. It's by choice. If you look to buy something and it's a 5% or 6% sales tax, you can say no. I can say no. There is no such animal as fair share. Oh, and by the way, somebody did a snapshot of his wife's outfit, and her boots cost $700. Her boots. So fair share is what they determine they need to take from you, not from them.
As I was saying, demanding that the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. It's not radical. It is exactly the right thing to do.
I promise you this. If you are a New Yorker, I am your mayor. Regardless of whether we agree, I will protect you, celebrate with you, mourn alongside you, and never, not for a second, hide from you. I thank the labor and movement leaders here today, the activists and the elected officials who will return to fighting for New Yorkers the second this ceremony concludes, and the performers who have gifted us with their talent. Thank you to Governor Hochul. Thank you as well to Mayor Adams. Dorothy's son, a son of Brownsville who rose from washing dishes to the highest position in our city, for being here as well.
Wait. You just said he rose from washing dishes, rose, meaning like, climbed the ladder, succeeded. But earlier you said there's no more individualism. You see how these people don't make sense? And the clapping seals don't even realize they're being, led around by the nose ring. He just congratulated somebody for succeeding. He was so-and-so's son, and, he rose from doing this to being all the way to the top. Maybe that's why Eric Adams has that look like, huh? What? You just said we can't do that anymore. Eric Adams like, I don't really understand what he's saying. Don't worry, Eric. You ain't the only one. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are watching right now going, why would you congratulate somebody on their individualism and then say nobody else behind me can do it? I don't know.
He and I have had our share of disagreements, but I will always be touched that he chose me as the mayoral candidate that he would most want to be trapped with on an elevator. Thank you to the two titans who, as an assembly member, I've had the privilege of being represented by in Congress, Nidia Velázquez and our incredible opening speaker, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Bartender, Congresswoman. Bartender, barely making it. Congresswoman, worth about $20 million. Nobody sees this stuff? I mean, what kind of absolute moron do you have to be to hear him talk about no individualism when everybody sitting there has all been individually succeeding? Some way, some shape, way, form. And are these people too stupid to realize there's a millionaire, there's a millionaire, there's a millionaire? What's their fair share? I don't know. And how are they going to stop now because they've succeeded and no more? That's off limits. Nobody can succeed anymore. It's all about us. We're all going to have a big hug. We're going to hug it out afterwards. Nobody is higher than anybody else except for the people who have 20 million.
You have paved the way for this moment. Thank you to the man whose leadership I seek most to emulate, who I am so grateful to be sworn in by today, Senator Bernie Sanders. Thank you to my teams, from the assembly to the campaign to the transition, and now the team I am so excited to lead from City Hall. Thank you to my parents, Mama and Baba. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives. For too long, we have turned to the private sector for greatness while accepting mediocrity from those who serve the public. I cannot blame anyone who has come to question the role of government, whose faith in democracy has been eroded by decades of apathy. We will restore that trust by walking a different path. One where government is no longer solely the final recourse for those struggling. One where excellence is no longer the exception.
Did people not listen to this guy? Excellence is no longer the exception. We are all going to be excellent. How do you do that when no individualism? I don't know if his speechwriter was tired or the thesaurus went bad. Something's wrong because what he just said contradicts what he said earlier. Everything about this guy is a lie. Everything about what he says, what he does, is an absolute show. Because you can't have the things that he says without people being successful.
We expect greatness from the cooks wielding 1,000 spices.
See what I mean? How did you start your speech by saying you were going to do away with individualism and then say we need people who are good and successful? That's how I knew people didn't listen to this. People ask me I got texts all day. What do you think about what Madami said? I'm like, I don't know if people want to hear it, what I have to say about him, because as I listen to him live, I'm like, these people are morons. They have found out how to collectivize morons. Because if you listen to him, he keeps talking about individual greatness. Which, how can you be talking about individual greatness if you don't want that? But because I think their IQ of the people sitting there are like 6th grade, they don't understand what's about to happen. Because what he's saying is good for some of us. You people get to have ramen. That's good for you.
From those who stride out onto our Broadway stages and from our starting point guard at Madison Square Garden.
He's heralding Broadway actors and NBA basketball players, both of which are very high on the totem pole of individualism. So when people ask me to talk about it, I was like, I told Ashley, I don't know what I'm watching anymore. I don't understand. Are people not getting what he's saying? He's lying. He can't have this without this. The guy who's shooting the basketball is probably making $4, $5, $6, $10, $20 million a year or more. The woman singing on stage at Broadway, although they're not getting many ticket sales, she's making millions. They have achieved. You're heralding them while saying, we're not going to do that anymore. Which is it, bro?
Let us demand the same from those who work in government. In a city where the mere names of our streets are associated with the innovation of the industries that call them home, we will make the word City Hall synonymous with both resolve and results.
I'm here mostly to thank the people of New York City. At a time in our country's history when we are seeing too much hatred, too much divisiveness, and too much injustice.
I guess this dude doesn't read his own tweets. Too much divisiveness. Too much injustice. I had to watch it because it's my job to watch it. I was like, I can't deal with these people. They're absolute bonkers.
Thank you for electing Zohran Mamdani as your mayor. New York, thank you for inspiring our nation. Thank you for giving us, from coast to coast, the hope and the vision that we can create government that works for all, not just the wealthy and the few.
Do they not know he's rich? When he just said that, and he says, not just, you're them, you are they. AOC is they. He can't say millionaires and billionaires anymore because he's a millionaire with like 3 or 4 houses. Now he can only go billionaires. It is such hypocrisy. And it's funny because when I get trolls in the chat and people DM me and stuff, I'm like, what don't you get? How? I'm not looking at a man in tatters. I'm not looking at Che Rivera. I'm looking at a guy who's a multimillionaire with a number of properties that he has bought and invested in. I'm looking at Mondami, who's rich. I'm looking at AOC, who's rich. I'm looking at Letitia James, is rich. And I'm thinking, do you people not see this? How is it possible that this collective can look at rich people and realize, oh, they're going to come down off their thrones and help me? Meanwhile, we got a rich guy who's trying to do everything for everybody, and they hate him. He's like, I'm going to do this so you don't have to do that. I'm going to do this so you don't have to do that. He's actually doing it. They're fighting him and then saying we got to find a way to do it. Instead of just saying, hey, well, guess we'll follow him. It's working.
At a moment when people in America, and in fact throughout the world, are losing faith in democracy, over 90,000 of you in this city volunteered for Zoran's campaign.
Well, that sounds like a lot. 90,000 volunteers in a city of 8 million. I'm wondering how this is going to work out. I'm wondering, since so many people were apathetic, that they didn't care. I don't care who the mayor is. I don't care. What are they going to do? Kathy Hochul already said she's not going to raise taxes. He can't do it. What are they going to do? Doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's why people didn't vote. Like, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. It's funny. It's sort of like when people got all upset because the mayor of Miami was some sort of socialist type person. Everyone's like, she ain't going to do nothing. She can't do anything. It's a figurehead. Notice she got real quiet. You haven't heard anybody talking about the semi-socialist mayor of Miami. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It sounded good on the media, but then they realized she can't do anything, can she? Nope. Not a damn thing. And so I'm wondering, what's he going to do? What's he going to do at Wall Street? What's he going to do at Park Avenue? What's he going to do with Trump Tower? I'm pretty sure the reason why Trump had that meeting with him is like, what do you got? You got any plans? Don't even think about it. We will squash you like a bug. I got too many properties here in Manhattan. You remember that? Remember when President Trump met with Mondami? Did you think to yourself what he must have told him? You got a developer who's built all kinds of towers and apartments and everything else. You think they're putting a rent control thing on Trump Tower? Ain't gonna happen. No way.
You knocked on doors. You shared your dreams and your hopes for the future of this city. And in the process, you took on the Democratic establishment, the Republican establishment, the President of the United States, and some enormously wealthy oligarchs. And you defeated them in the biggest political upset in modern American history.
I guess Bernie wasn't alive in 2016. I know he's got gray hair, but he must not have been alive in 2016. The biggest political upset in American history. You sure, bro? Sure about that? Ask Hillary what she thinks about the biggest upset in political history. This is a mayor of New York City, where not even like half the people, not even a quarter of the people voted. Biggest political upset in American history. Yeah, sure, hi.
You showed the world the most important lesson that can be learned today, and that is that when working people stand together, when we don't let them divide us up, there is nothing we cannot accomplish.
Good afternoon, my friends. Today is the start of a new era for New York City. It is Inauguration Day. It is also the day that the rent is due. At midnight last night, I swore my oath to become the mayor of New York City. Just a few hours ago today, I celebrated with tens of thousands of New Yorkers. Many of them left our ceremony to return to houses and apartments that do not feel like homes, where bad landlords do not make repairs, where rents constantly rise, where roaches crawl in the hallways and heat in the chill of winter comes rarely, if ever. These New Yorkers voted for a new day for our city because the past one is clouded by housing insecurity and instability, where they cannot afford a life of dignity in the city that they love. Today, on the first day of this new administration, on the day where so many rent payments are due, we will not wait to deliver action. And we will stand up on behalf of the tenants of this city. Yes, we know we are fighting for a rent freeze. But that is not the extent of our efforts. We will also stand up for tenants, build new housing, and get New Yorkers into housing faster.
I'm waiting for him to say how. You know how the Democrats always run to the courts every time something happens? You know what's going to happen here. We've already seen this movie. He's going to say something stupid. I'm going to not allow people to pay rent and whatever. And it's going to go right to court. And in the interim, they're going to have injunctions. And then it's going to go to the appellate court. And then it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And he will be long out of office before anything happens. And every one of these barking seals behind him don't understand what's about to happen. They're going to sue New York into oblivion. Now, if you're a slumlord and your property is all broken down and looks like crap, well, yeah, you need to deal with that. I don't have any problem with him going after anybody who's basically being a slumlord. But the other stuff, nah, that ain't ever going to happen.
Today, we are announcing 3 executive orders. The first will be to revive the mayor's office to protect tenants. We will not compromise on housing quality. If your landlord does not responsibly steward your home, city government will step in.
Now, you guys know I'm involved in real estate. I've bought many properties that were run down. These people have no idea how long it takes. Yep, a city will come out and say your hedges need to be cut. You need to fix the windows. You need to take the garbage off the property. And they put the sticker on the door. And some landlords just rip it up and throw it away. Then they come back and do it again. And then at the next city council meeting, they're going to say, we're going to fine you. And they're going to keep fining you if they get it. There's no way to collect. You're not going to eminent domain their property. They know the game. That violation will sit there until such time as, they rectify it or whatever. But I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't fix anything. You can't take somebody's property from them. There's no possible way he can say, you didn't fix it, we'll take it. You can't even say, he didn't fix it, we're going to kick in the doors and we're going to fix it ourselves. You have no authority on somebody's property. But the barking seals have no idea about that. They think everything that Mandami is saying is going to happen. Having been a landlord for a lot of properties. I can tell you, I kept mine up good, well, but I did know and would see often like some of the neighbors and their properties look like crap. I bought one house that didn't have running water. The people took a poop out in the yard. Robin can tell you about that. They didn't have running water in the house. You walked in, it was like, what is that smell? Because they couldn't even wash their butt. They had like a little wading pool that the kids would go out and sit around and try to wash their butt, and it looked out back and it was like brown and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know how long that had gone on, but it had gone on long enough where somebody called me and said, this lady needs some help. At which point I said, how long do you need to leave? And, I'll give you some money. We'll just sign here or whatever. But the government couldn't get it done. The city of, Westlake down here in South Florida could not fix the fact that she had no water. But you wouldn't know that as a barking seal. You think he's going to fix all this. He's got no right. The city can't open the door and go connect the water main. Can't do it. I'm not sure if you knew that.
We will make sure that 311 violations are resolved, and we will hold slumlords to account for hazardous and dangerous threats to your well-being. The second is to create a LIFT task force. LIFT stands for Land Inventory Fast Track, to leverage city-owned land and accelerate housing development.
Notice as he's reading this, and the reason why I'm spending time on this, because I wanted to give you guys information on stuff, is each one of you can be mayor, because it's pretty simple. Just get up and say, I'm going to do this. And nobody in the audience, nobody behind him goes, how? What do you mean? How are you going to do that? You're going to form a task force, and they're going to run around, and they're going to look at this, and then what? Come back with a report. And then what? You don't have any power. And this is why I really believe this is going to fail miserably. Because people can hear him saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And nobody's asking him, how? Any of it. How are you going to do it? I bet you the city attorney, or whoever that woman is here in the orange jacket, she looked like she's first year out of college. They have no clue what they're about to walk into.
Task force will review city-owned properties and identify sites suitable for housing development no later than July 1st of this year. The last executive order is the creation of the SPEED Task Force. SPEED standing for Streamlining Procedures to Expedite Equitable Development.
Huh? What's equitable development? I don't know. I've been involved in some development. I've never heard of speeding up equitable development. Are you going to say that, we got some city-owned property and we're going to let the black people be the ones to develop this? Is that what you're going to do? Well, the very next day you'll have a lawsuit, and that won't happen. What? If you're going to do something from the city, pretty much you've got to go ahead and put it out to bid. And then, this guy's bullshit.
This task force will identify and remove bureaucratic and permitting barriers that drive up costs and slow housing construction and lease up, making it more affordable to build and easier to access housing across New York City. These two.
What are you going to do about the cost? You don't control that. What are you going to do about the market? If you need X amount of pieces of sheetrock, you can't make Home Depot sell it to you cheaper. The price per square foot of a property is the price per square foot of the property. Who's going to be doing the hammering? Oh, that's right. Hope it's not some people ain't supposed to be here. So all of a sudden, now your cost just went up. Yeah, he didn't mention that. Who's going to be doing the plumbing, the electric work, the concrete work? Who's going to be doing the roof? It's easy to promise people things and have people stand behind you and do this. This is why this guy is set up for failure, because he's never done anything in his life. And he's hiring and bringing people around him who've never done anything in their lives. And all he's going to do is continue to do press briefings and come out here and say, I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this. And nobody in the press asks him, how? Show me one of the properties the city owns that you'd like to turn around and do something with. Okay, I see that tenement that's all dilapidated, and you're going to expedite the permits. Who's going to do the work? Where are you getting the money to do that? A bond issue? None of it makes any sense.
Task forces will be overseen by our incredible Deputy Mayor for Housing and Planning, Leila Bozarg. These are sweeping measures, but it is just the beginning of a comprehensive effort to champion the cause of tenants too long ignored and homes too expensive. We are here today at 85 Clarkson Avenue. This building is owned by Pinnacle Realty, a notorious landlord whose name is all too familiar to far too many renters in New York City. Thank you. Tenants like Josie Wells, who we will hear from shortly, contend with a lack of heat, roaches, and the kind of conditions that no New Yorker should have to live through. This building and 92 others owned by the same landlord are in bankruptcy proceedings. And they are set to be auctioned off to a different landlord, one who ranks number 6 on the worst landlord list in New York City.
How do you know who's getting ready to buy it if it's going to be auctioned? You know, the whole idea with the auction is the highest bidder. Now, you can't just say that guy's going to buy it unless, of course, nobody wants it. But this is where it gets good to me, being in real estate. This is where it starts getting good, because he just gave you some information. This place is all run down. They own like 100 properties around the city, and this one's in bankruptcy. Do you realize what's about to happen here, Mondami? You realize that because it's in bankruptcy, federal bankruptcy, there's no state bankruptcy. What is about to happen with your idea here and how they're going to file different papers? Good luck with that.
In those buildings alone, there are more than 5,000 open hazardous violations and 14,000 complaints. This is an untenable situation. So today we are announcing that we will be taking action in the bankruptcy case. Stepping in to represent the interests of the city and the interests of the tenants and say, once and for all, who this government will be fighting for.
The bankruptcy court's going like, what do you want here? You know, I wanted to show you guys some of this. I think at this point I'll fast forward a little bit, because you now know, or should know without any equivocation, this guy is bat poop crazy. He can't do anything. And when I heard him say that, when I heard him say, I'm going to go to the bankruptcy court and you're going to what? You're not a party to this. Yeah, you may have some liens from the city and stuff, but other than that, you're not the owner. You're not the mortgagee. You're not a party to this bankruptcy. So now he answers some questions from the press, who's just basically licking his boots.
Two questions. The first one, there was a pretty big tax the rich chant. I know a lot of your supporters like it. The governor doesn't love that phrase. Could you maybe speak to that divide and where that fits among your priorities going forward?
You know, I have said over the course of our campaign, and I will now say as the mayor of this city, that the two most straightforward ways to raise revenue, to not only take on the fiscal challenges that we are inheriting, but also to fulfill the affordability agenda that we have been running on, is by raising taxes on the 1% of New Yorkers who make $1 million a year, by an additional 2%, and by raising the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey.
All right, so notice what he didn't mention there. He didn't say, maybe I should look around and lower some costs. Maybe I'm going to make this a little bit more affordable by bringing the cost. Nope, I got to tax you. So he said $1 million. So I guess that is the new threshold. You're rich if you make $1 million. So I don't know if you know, but if you make $1 million in New York City, it's likely that you are paying, I don't know, $500,000 or $600,000 of your income. You know this because those people are probably paying a 40+% to federal income. They're also paying taxes on their property. They're also paying city taxes. They're also paying state taxes. And by the time it's left over, they're making $400,000. Which to some people right now watching television, watching this, are like $400,000 is rich. It's far from rich. So he just kind of gave it away. We're going to take even more of your money. And we're going to declare that 1 million is now rich. That is our threshold. These people are going to be running from New York City. If you've lowered your rich threshold to $1 million after people have been living there and been paying out the wazoo, and you're like, we're going to tax them even higher, you're done.
And in this, we would raise $9 billion. And we put this forward because it is critical in a moment like this to not allow fiscal challenges to become an excuse for austerity, but instead to respond to them with the seriousness they deserve and the ambition that New Yorkers require, such that we not only protect what they have today, but ensure that they have more tomorrow.
Man, that was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, wasn't it? Wasn't that just a bunch of blah, 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 blah? And the reporters are fearful of asking the question, I guess. So with all this happening, as we're seeing what's happening in Minnesota, how can this be possible? How can people be this stupid? I really don't get it. Before I continue, hold on, let me do this. All right, so I can talk to you about Chapter. Chapter has been one of my favorite people to work with because I turned 65 myself. And I understand Medicare is confusing. The open enrollment period may be ending or already ended. And if you didn't do what you're supposed to do, they will fine you. They will definitely tack on some fees if you didn't do what you're supposed to do. As someone who recently turned 65 myself, I can confirm this. Keeping track of enrollment periods, understanding all your options, and making sure you're on the right plan takes too much time and energy. And between Medicare scams, corrupt agents, and bloated insurance companies, it's easy to make mistakes that can cost you thousands. That's why I'm happy I called Chapter. They're actually honest, and they're the only Medicare advisor I found out there that looks at every plan nationwide to help you save an average of $1,100 a year. People are relieved when they talk to Chapter. One member, Margaret, was so happy she called Chapter. Then she DM'd me and said she is saving $105 a month for the same supplemental plan just by switching insurance companies. These guys won't push you to buy a plan you don't want, and their support is completely free. One 20-minute phone call. So if you're turning 65 soon or have questions about your Medicare, call them at 475-328-3545 to get the most out of Medicare, and most people wish they had just called them sooner. Now, I understand some people here have indeed taken them up and called them, and they're like, it's busy. Well, as you might imagine, with everything going on with healthcare, they are extremely busy. So let me know if you have a problem getting through. All right. How can Chapter help if the enrollment date is over? Easy. They can still find you the best plan and probably get you something that would be less than what you'd be paying even with the fees. Yes, the Somalians are living off of taxpayer money. You know what I find funny as I listen to all this stuff is, did the Democrats think that things were cheaper under Biden? Why was there no dust up about affordability the last 4 years when things were actually more expensive? I don't know. But they've latched on to this now.
Because the economy, it's not a stat, it's a feeling for voters.
Yeah, and that's the challenge for Republicans. Leslie, the challenge for Democrats, you would think in this year, when the other party controls the White House, the Senate, and the House, that you are going to cruise in November. But do Democrats have what it takes, the message, the answers to what it takes to at least take back the House?
Oh, yes, and possibly the Senate. We only have to flip 4 seats. Look, I want, and especially when you're serving a caviar bar, when people today are getting huge premium bills, that's just so out of touch with the people. And I want to thank the President and Republicans for doing that. It certainly helps my party.
Ready.
Okay. All right. So, full disclosure, my wife loves caviar. Caviar. Eating caviar, which I can't stand, doesn't make you rich. Eating caviar may seem like a luxury, but it's also on the menu. If you go to the restaurant and they have caviar and you want it, you can order it. It doesn't mean that you are classist, that you're looking down on other people. That's just more what you just heard there was more of the collectivism. You shouldn't be able to eat caviar. And so she tried to make it as though that was a bad thing that they had a caviar bar. What are they supposed to have? Ramen at Mar-a-Lago? How is it out of touch? I could take you right now to a bunch of different resorts around where I live, and these people are spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a night on hotel rooms. We're getting to the point where they're pointing at people who can afford something, who have succeeded to the point where they can do certain things in their lives, and saying, no, you can't do it because I can't do it. Yet, AOC's got 20 million. I'm sure if she likes it, she's had caviar. I'm sure Bernie, if he likes it, has had caviar. Why do they pretend as though it's only Republicans who like to indulge? It makes absolutely no sense because they're trying to make people feel bad. See what they have? You don't have that. Well, I worked for it, man. I worked hard so that my wife could eat caviar. I can't stand it. I don't want to eat it. But if she wants it, what am I going to tell her? No, you shouldn't. No, why? Because there's people who can't afford it. The hell with that.
Whistleblowers in state government are saying that people are planning to scam it. Under the new law, almost every resident is eligible to take up to 20 weeks of paid leave a year to take.
Now, this is the law that took effect yesterday. Up to 20 weeks of pay, 4 whole months, Minnesota is allowing people to take. And while you take the time off, they're going to pay you up to $1,400 a week. So if you do the math, that's basically about $6,500 a month times 4 months. They're going to pay you, $25,000, $26,000 for you to take the time off. And it says GOP lawmakers warn of fraud risk. Yes, the Walz administration says safeguards exist. Where were the safeguards for the Somalis that were stealing from the child care?
Care of family or for medical reasons, with taxpayers footing the bill and paying out a percentage of a person's salary up to $1,420 a week. The program is projected to cost between $1 and $1.5 billion a year, but Republican lawmakers say that could go up dramatically thanks to how vaguely the law is written, making it ripe for fraud.
One thing that people don't know, you can designate one person annually as the person you care for. So I can designate my uncle living in Florida, go on vacation, and it's up to your employer to investigate whether you're really caring for that person or not. Like, that's just, there's no guardrails. It's going to be ridden with fraud, just like we see in our other systems. The honor system is not the best way to distribute all this money.
How can we have the honor system when the people stealing the money aren't even honorable enough to come into America the right way? How? How can we trust that this is going to be administered? And why am I and you having to pay into this? Why does anybody need 4 months off? It doesn't make 5 months. Why do you need 5 months off? And why am I paying for you to have 5 months off?
Despite the growing scandal around the alleged fraud already taking place, Governor Tim Walz is dismissing those concerns from Republican lawmakers.
The small business.
All right, so before we get to Kelly, the White House posted this. The White House posted, those committing fraud in Minnesota will be caught and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And it's got a picture of Tim Walz with a caption, over $1 billion in fraud targeting Minnesota taxpayers. Multiple federal programs exploited across food, healthcare, housing, and autism services. You know what the worst thing about is? There are people who really need help who have autistic children. And these idiots are stealing it. And it's so widespread. I'm going back to the point I made earlier. We cannot arrest our way out of this. Listen to what Kelly says.
Administration suspending nearly 7,000 COVID-era loans in Minnesota, accusing borrowers of defrauding the government out of $400 million. SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler posting in part this. After years, the American people will finally begin to see the criminals who stole from law-abiding taxpayers held accountable. And this is just the first state. President Trump saying there's been at least $18 billion stolen, vowing the United States will get this money back. The Oversight Committee announcing 2 upcoming hearings on the fraud, including one with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and AG Keith Ellison in February. I want to bring in the woman herself, U.S. Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, good morning to you. And talk to us about these actions, the 2 different actions. First, going after the fraud with the PPP loans, also suspending funding from the SBA to the state of Minnesota.
All right, so before she says that, I got to show you this. This Elon posted, a lot of people posted. This is insane. The person in charge of the UN Security Council, the United Nations Security Council, had a taxpayer-funded healthcare company which was convicted of Medicaid fraud and worked as a supervisor in Medicaid government office. One of the people in charge at the United Nations, a Somalian. This is so widespread. You guys are so pissed off. At this point, we have to surge and let Trump know and his team know, do what you got to do. We are 100% behind you. Do what you got to do.
Well, that's right. Good morning, Cheryl. We are suspending funding to the state of Minnesota. I wrote a letter to Governor Tim Walz and said last week that we would be withholding the state millions of dollars from the state because there are simply no guardrails on taxpayer dollars. But the bigger picture is here, as soon as we found out following Thanksgiving weekend that there was massive fraud in Minnesota, we immediately went to look at pandemic-era programs, which we know were rife.
Who believes that? Who believes they just found out about this fraud? Not me. I think this whole thing was to, as again, show you. Nobody could have told you. Think about that. Nobody would have been able to tell you, yeah, they've stolen nearly $1 trillion. No. No way. No, seriously. They sold $1 trillion. You wouldn't even have to pay income tax. They've stolen so much money from you. They had to show us. They had to show every single American who pays taxes how bad it's been. And it's worse than you, like I put on the thumbnail, it's even worse than you imagine. I mean, we got this. Election funding via fraud. $35 million in political donations from Minnesota Somali fraudster daycares. The daycares funneled a combined $35 million to political campaigns over the last 2 years. A table from the Somali Scan site lists providers like Future Leaders Early Learning Center, topping the chart at $6.6 million. The political alignment of the fraudsters is clear. It's all tying it into the ongoing fraud firestorm where these spots are accused of pocketing taxpayer cash for ghost services. With fraud probes heating up and feds freezing bucks, this adds fuel to the drain the swamp calls. And so what you're looking at is not just fraud, but a massive money laundering scheme. We're going to steal the money from taxpayers. We're going to give it to you Somali people, and then you're going to send us back, political donations. That is RICO. That is an absolute scam. It's bad enough that your tax dollars were stolen to the tune of probably nearly $1 trillion. That's bad enough. But then you're finding out it's just a washing machine to give it back to the Democrats. The more that gets uncovered, the more people are like, I can't even fathom what the hell has happened.
With fraud. And so we went and investigated. It only took us a couple days to find about $3 million in frauds from the indicted individuals that were listed, about 80 individuals. So we dug further. We picked up about 13,000 loans that were flagged from fraud. And as you mentioned, about 7,000 individuals in Minnesota now know that they will not be able to ever get loans from the SBA or disaster recovery funds because they have defrauded the federal government and our taxpayers. We're holding them accountable, and we will be sending those files over to federal law enforcement because this isn't just action to stop them from getting SBA support, but also to make sure that there are consequences for them, that there are prosecutions, and there's accountability.
Well, also, too, the SBA, the internal watchdog, this is 2023, estimated, and goes to these COVID-era loans, that about $200 billion in potentially fraudulent loans in general had been handed out, 17% of total funds dispersed. Now, this is before, obviously, you took over the agency. But, I think we should remind people that for those loans, people were able to, these borrowers were able to self-certify that these loans were legitimate. Self-certify, which seems ridiculous. Now, look.
Self-certified. Yeah, I own a daycare center. It's sort of like what CNN did the other day when they called up the daycare center. Are you legit? Yeah, we're legit. Okay, everything's fine. Somebody put in the comment section, I can't find it right now, but it's like, did these people just assume this? Did they just feel like they were entitled to your money? Yes. They had gotten so comfortable that the brazenness of it, of putting up a sign that's spelled wrong, and they didn't care. They absolutely didn't care. They were laughing in our face and taking our money for God knows how long. So you have every right to be mad. You have every right to do what you need to do, however you decide you're going to do it.
Back. How confident are you that we can somehow maybe claw back some of this funding?
Well, that's absolutely right. Out of $1.2 trillion that went out through SBA funds during COVID, and I remember.
Listen to these numbers. That's just SBA. $1 trillion. Then we have no idea where it went, who it went to. $1 trillion. What's our deficit? How far behind are we? $1 trillion of your money, my money.
These COVID-era loans helped millions of small businesses keep millions of employees on their payroll. Most were legitimate. But the fact is we had organized crime operating around these, like we see with the Somali crime ring in Minnesota. And so we have gone back through loans that the Biden administration tried to forgive that were known to be fraudulent. That's why we already had 13,000 that we knew had been marked as fraudulent. We're able to find quickly 8,000 of those and make sure that they cannot benefit from our services. But
did you catch that? To add salt into your wound, to make you feel even more pissed off, they stole the money from you. They gave it to God knows whoever. And then they said, you know what? Let's just forgive the loans. Let's just tell them they never have to pay it back because we already got it. It's already been dispersed. Half of it's probably in Somalia, and you don't have to pay it back. Sounds like another scam which is about to break. Let me just tell you right now, the next one that will break, I'm telling you right now, it is coming. Gird your loins. The next big one will be student loans. That is going to be absolutely massive. Going way back, and these people were shipping out loans to kids who didn't even probably matriculate. They didn't even go to school. The colleges were stealing the money. The Teachers Association was stealing the money and then sending it back to the Democrats. Wait, that other shoe is coming very soon. The teachers' unions and what they've done will probably make this stuff look pale in comparison. I mean, seriously. And what's the effect of all this is finally President Trump is turning off the spigot. You're done. You're done. You're done. And now we're going to see the rats scurry.
Now, as I mentioned, we're going to do that state by state. We are going to make sure, now that we understand the breadth and the depth and the method of these crimes, that we hold more states accountable. And so we are making that commitment.
The Department of Homeland Security ramping up its operations in Minnesota, going after Somali migrants and daycare owners in a massive fraud probe. DHS posting on X that agents are going door to door at suspected fraud sites. The American people deserve answers on how their taxpayer money is being used and arrest when abuse is found. Under the leadership of Secretary Noem, DHS is working to deliver results.
Didn't they just show you earlier that there were tens of thousands of these phony daycare centers, autism centers? They're going door to door. It's never going to happen. We are never going to find out the depth of this because it can't possibly be reined in. Not in this way. The only thing that this is doing is hopefully making some of these people scatter. Maybe some of these people take their money and get the hell out of the country just because the presence of the DHS and ICE people. But in terms of actually arresting a whole lot of people, no, it's not going to happen.
The department also beginning to audit migrants from 19 countries to determine if citizenship status was achieved in fraudulent manners. I want to bring in DHS Public Affairs Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. Tricia, good morning to you and Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. This has been something, we just had Kelly Loeffler on at the top of the hour talking about this all-of-government approach to dealing with this massive fraud in Minnesota. Talk about your department's efforts and where you are this morning.
Cheryl, Happy New Year, and thank you for having me. Yes, the Trump administration is all hands on deck on this effort to root out what looks like rampant fraud out of Minneapolis. HSI, Homeland Security investigators, our ERO, which is ICE, we're all there, and more are coming. We also have USCIS, which is a large-scale investigation happening on the ground. About half of cases, cases we've seen on the ground, have resulted in some sort of fraud, and there's been about 1,000 arrests made of illegal aliens on the ground in just the last few weeks, Cheryl.
Let's talk about that issue, because this word has come up, denaturalization. If you find that these Somali migrants who were awarded the privilege of U.S. citizenship, if you do an investigation and find that they lied about, maybe it was a sham marriage, they lied, they put fraudulent information on their applications, how confident are you that denaturalization can actually happen? There is a few legal hurdles to that process.
All right, so before she answers, that ain't ever going to happen. We can't even get the Maryland man thrown out. We can't get the Maryland man deported. You got Bo Asperger telling they got to bring back the Venezuelans. They're not going to be, I mean, I don't want to be negative because I'm feeling really positive actually, but all the stuff I think you're hearing right now is all smokescreen. They all know it. It ain't going to happen this way. There is no way you're going to be able to do this. You don't have the manpower. The judges are going to block you all along the way. So it only leads to one door.
It's certainly a case-by-case basis, but under U.S. law, if an alien has procured citizenship on the basis of fraud, then that is grounds for denaturalization. So we are taking that incredibly seriously, and especially in the case of immigration fraud. That's something we're certainly looking at. But earlier in your monologue, you discussed those 19 countries of concern. What we're looking at for these different countries, including Somalia, is we're doing full-blown audits to see how aliens procured either their green cards, their visas, or even their citizenship.
Where are the...
I know some of you guys right now are listening to this and you think I'm being negative. Just the opposite. I'm trying to show you how big this is so that you can feel confident that there is only one way to fix this. Too many people in the Trump administration are sounding the alarm, and they're sounding the alarm very publicly. They're letting you know, hey, listen to this, listen to that, trillion here, trillion there. Because at that point, reasonable people have to sit back and realize we can't go through hearings. Forget James Comer and these congressional, I don't care about that. At this point, we have a tumor that needs to be excised. We need to cut it out. We're like on the island with a survivor and we don't have a medical crew. Whatever we got to do, take a scalpel, cut it out. We don't have time for all the other stuff. The country won't be here. Listen to what Sean Duffy says. This gonna piss you off.
Roads and bridges. They spent a trillion, $800 billion in that infrastructure package I told you that my former congressman who I ran against, he championed. It was all supposed to go to roads and bridges. And then we had the Build Back Better, Inflation Reduction Act. We sent a ton of money to roads and bridges. So outside of the normal funding, we put $2 trillion into road and bridge funding. I'm like, where in the frick are the roads and bridges?
If you don't know, we definitely don't know. Being facetious, they can't find it. I mean, we'd all know if there were new bridges and $2 trillion. Pete Buttigieg, whatever his name is, he stole $2 trillion. I mean, he'll say we gave it out, but whatever, $2 trillion went out of his budget. Poof, out of thin air. $2 trillion. Are you tired of hearing the word trillion? Because we're hearing it all over the place, which is why when Peter said at this point we recognize there is no really huge national debt. It has been stolen and amplified. And we need to right this ship very quickly.
Like, what the hell did you do with the money? Because I don't see beautiful infrastructure in this country. You're spending the money, but I think Americans have to demand we get something back for it. I want a new grid. I want new airports. I want new roads. I want this shit to work. But to do that, you have to elect smart people who are not focused on DEI and climate. They're actually focused on providing for the American people.
It is outrageous. It is outrageous how much fraud there is. And, you guys have been talking here this morning about what's the deal with the Democrats. Or the bigger thing that you should be looking at is the fact that they're using these daycares to fund their political campaigns. That's what we found out over the past couple days. We've got millions of dollars pouring in from daycares into political campaigns that they are all setting it up. So they're funneling it from their NGOs. The NGOs get taxpayer dollars. They push it into the LLCs that are owned by the NGOs. And then those LLCs donate to political campaigns.
All right, so he's going to get into some math here. I want to pause it because as he gets into this math, you're probably going to go, oh my gosh. Oh, it's going to shock you how deep this thing goes.
It's insane, but we're going to prove it out over the next couple days.
Draw that line for me. Like, give me an example of a political campaign that got taxpayer money that came from a daycare.
Well, there's a Somalian rep, surprisingly enough. Isn't that strange? There's a Somalian rep in Columbus, Ohio, who 4 different daycares sent him $2,000 from each one of their daycare facilities. Now, you're wondering where all this stuff comes from. Well, imagine if you've got infinite money, John, taxpayer money, to fund your political campaigns. Imagine that. Listen, everyone's sitting here talking about what do we do to fight back. Let's cut their money off. That's what we should do. If you don't have the money and you don't have the ability to advertise, there's your real option. That's the real way we fight back. That's the real way we've actually taken back this country. When you cut off the taxpayer funding that is going into campaign donations, then we're going to make some real change here.
So what are your next steps in Ohio?
Well, I've got a team of about 10 people that are coming out here now, and we're all going to go find these businesses. I've got 73 businesses on one list just for 2 organizations. So we're going to go find these businesses, and they don't exist.
73 businesses for 2 organizations. Explain what that means, Walter Kirk.
Okay, so I'll explain this. So the structure, the way that this works, okay, and this is something I wasn't even really aware of. So a 501c3 can't donate to a political campaign, right? I mean, that's, it's a 501c3. You can't do that. But a 501c3 can own an LLC. It's called a disregarded entity. That's the way it works. So as long as the LLC is owned by the 501c3 and the purpose of the LLC is to further the mission of the 501c3, it can operate essentially in the same way and be tax exempt. Well,
so we're going to get in some serious accounting here. You got the 501c3 charity here, and it's got all these tentacles, sometimes thousands of NGOs, not 1 or 2, thousands of NGOs. So if you got the big mothership here, if you think of the movie Independence Day and all the other ships that came out of the mothership, those are all the NGOs. And so you could give every NGO $2,000 or $3,000. And then you could have 1,000 of them. And each of these NGOs now is sitting on thousands of dollars to give to the political candidates. But it's all funded at the top from the 501c3.
But there's nothing stopping those LLCs from them donating to political campaigns, just like they can do everywhere else. So you've heard of the smurfing concept, right, where they donate small donations, right, very small donations to people's campaigns. Well, my theory was, and I think this is going to get proven out over the next week or so, my theory was, well, what if they've got 10,000 businesses that sit underneath these NGOs that they then pump into political campaigns? That was my theory. And I think this is going to be proven true. So what I think we're going to find over the next week or so, John, I think we're going to find out that there's 10, 15,000 little NGO LLCs that are donating to political campaigns. I mean, if you've got 10,000 of them and they can each donate 2,000, you've got $20 million per candidate, technically, that might be able to pump.
Okay, just 10, 5,000. How you gonna arrest all these people? I'm over here looking at the Somali daycare centers. My staff is full. Okay, who's gonna be looking at the Somali autistic centers? We're full over here. We got 8,000 of them. Who's looking at the SBA loans? Who's looking at the friggin' bridges that we can't find? This was devious. This was an enterprise of massive proportions. Trump knew this. If he had said in January, here's what the problem is, there's no way any of you in the chat would have believed it. You probably don't believe it now. You're like, this is incredible. And this is where we are right now. Now we're pulling back the curtain. A lot of us don't want to see what's behind this curtain, but it's there. It's most assuredly there.
But these campaigns across the country, how many LLCs are there? And the big question becomes, how many NGOs do this? How much money are they getting? How much money is going to political campaigns? If it's, the numbers that I've seen so far, and I haven't had full verification on it to be able to say it definitively, but the numbers we've seen so far, it looks like $30 million just in Minnesota over the past 2 years. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars across the country being pumped into political campaigns, and that's all being funded by the taxpayers. These Somali daycare things, they're fleecing the country, and we're paying them to do it. We're paying them to steal from us. It is unbelievable. And you wonder, Tim Walz in Minnesota, is this guy, is he actually an idiot? Is he really stupid? Or is he actually just a capo? I mean, you got to think about it, right? They had the 2 assassinations of the political candidates, the 2 political people in Minnesota earlier this year, the 2 lawmakers that got killed at their house. That guy said that Tim Walz told him to do it, right? So is Tim Walz actually stupid? Or is he just as dangerous as anybody could possibly imagine? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's just a patsy, but You look at this stuff and it starts to seem that there's no way you can have, when you have like a little bit of fraud, okay, like say you've got a few $1 million, you might be able to hide that. You don't hide $9 billion worth of fraud, John.
How do you think Ilhan Omar got tens of millions of dollars? They never thought Trump would win. They never thought this would be exposed. And now it is here where, I just don't see this story going away. And actually, there's only one way that this can be fixed. And the Democrats know it as well.
You don't hide that, okay? Someone's helping you. So that's the question. Who is helping them? Who's getting a cut? Where are the wheels getting greased? And that's what we're working on now.
All right, so as you're looking at this, by now, January of 2026, and I've said this, I don't know, probably a year ago, and a lot of people called me hyperbolic and drama queen and everything else, and I'm telling you, we are already in a civil war. It's not being fought with guns and bullets and bombs. It's being fought with deceitful politicians stealing your money and keeping you on a treadmill. Guy I like to follow is, because he says some really good things, is a clandestine guy here. At what point does the corruption become so vast and entrenched that we have to impose martial law and let the military handle this quickly via tribunals? I think we all need to recognize, and that's you, that we are living through the Second American Civil War, and it might require some Lincoln-era governance to resolve this situation. During the First Civil War, Lincoln imposed martial law and suspended the writ of habeas corpus many times, without congressional approval, and essentially told Congress and the Supreme Court to F off, and he did what he needed to do in order to save the Republic from the ongoing rebellion. Lincoln is widely considered as the greatest and most consequential president in American history. Scholars consider him greater than Washington. Drastic times call for drastic measures. This is being talked about more and more. Because now as you're seeing, and again, it goes back to what I was saying, you didn't know all of this in January. When the Panicans were talking about nobody's been arrested and all this kind of stuff, as Ashley is texting me, nobody knew what was going on. Now you know it all. There is no doubt. You now know you've been stolen from in a massive way. What are you going to do about it? Because at this point, we need everyone to get ready for what's coming. I've said it before. I've said it. I thought we were in a civil war for quite some time. But now a lot of things are making sense. Remember the seditious six? They know it as well. They've been trying to tell the Democrats, it's coming. Listen to this.
The first, a scenario in which Trump finds a pretext, invokes the Insurrection Act, and tries to impose martial law. Elections, therefore, could be canceled, or if they happen, he could surround polling places with military and federal law enforcement to intimidate voters.
There was a guy in my feed who told me that Trump couldn't do it, that he might get sued. There'd be all kinds of Supreme Court things that would happen. I told the guy, go do your homework. When President Trump pulls the tab on this and says, I got to do it, there is nothing else. That's something you have to understand. Maybe that's why he's waited as well. There is nothing else. There's no judge. There's no Supreme Court. There's nothing anybody can do if he invokes it. They can't stop him. She knows it. She was in the CIA. And she was part of the seditious six. And she's letting Democrats know he's going to do it. So if we know it and they know it, what's left? We just need President Trump to do it.
The second option is harder to track, but can still swing an election. Labeling opposition groups, candidates, and elected officials as terrorists or criminals, and going after the infrastructure that allows for competitive elections.
The infrastructure. See, I missed that the first time I heard it. Now I see the infrastructure. This entire show was about showing you the infrastructure. They had this thing all set up, and this is what they've been using for decades to run elections. That infrastructure that they're worried about him tearing apart, you've just seen it. You've just watched it over the last 3 or 4 days. Like I said, the only one left in my mind would be the education department. The entire infrastructure she's talking about is what they built to make sure they'd get elected. That hits differently when you start thinking about it. What infrastructure? Fake machines, fake ballots, fake money, robbing Americans, bringing in people from other countries. That's the infrastructure.
Turning the federal government against Trump's enemies goes hand in hand with his use of force in American cities, both federal law enforcement and the military. As of today, the president has attempted to deploy more than 7,000 National Guard members across 5 cities, including right here in Washington. In August, the administration ordered the creation of 2 new National Guard units, a standing quick reaction force that can deploy anywhere in the country, and then separately, National Guard units in all 50 states focused on quelling so-called civil disturbances.
She knows it. When I told people that they created a quick response from the military, people didn't know what I was talking about. These people are already in place. There is a quick response of I guess it's going to be military at this point, since it won't be National Guard, that they can deploy to hotspots. Why would you even do that? Why would you create units to go in and quell hotspots? Because they're going to be hotspots. They know what these people will do. They know how they will react. When that trigger is pulled and deployed, there's no turning back. None of us were here during the Civil War, but we've read, hopefully people have read books, and it was brother against brother turning on each other because they didn't like what Lincoln was doing. You don't think that's going to happen? I don't know how your Christmas dinner was, but you may have people who don't like you because you're a Trump supporter. I know my channel gets constantly attacked because I talk about Trump. So here's where we are. We're at the point where they know it's coming. You have to know it's coming. Forget the arrest. Stop freaking posting about arrest. If they've got 1 million criminals, there's no way you're going to do it. We can't even deport the Maryland man. Let that sink into you. There is no other way. And it's going to be really bad. Maybe not where you live, maybe not where I live, but they're going to be hot spots across this country because they're fighting for their very lives, and we're going to be fighting for the very life of this country. They're fighting for their big money and their power. We're fighting for our way of lives.
At this point, Trump has been very clear about his intent. At Quantico, speaking as commander-in-chief, he instructed his military brass to use cities as, quote, training grounds. And many times, he's floated the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act so that military units can raid, detain, and arrest Americans.
Now, this is a sitting senator. So for some of you who said he can't do it, he's going to get sued, she knows he can. Matter of fact, she was in the CIA. She knows specifically, yeah, he can. If he decides to go that way, he can do it. Why is she telling the people at the Brookings Institute, hey, he's probably going to do this? What signals is she making to tell people, here's what's coming? Steal as much as you can. Find your bolt holes. Do what you need to do. It's coming. Did you know that they're already training in certain cities? She just spilled the beans on that. So when I saw people saying Barry was talking negative, this wasn't negative. This is some good stuff here. At this point, there's nothing left to really expose. We now know we have enemy combatants on our streets. An enemy doesn't have to be somebody who's shooting. An enemy doesn't have to be somebody who's putting bombs in buildings. There has been a widespread, organized, planned fraud to steal from Americans for an excessive amount of time. And now it's getting exposed. And the media at this point, all they can say is Nick Shirley is racist, he's MAGA, and Trump is racist, and it's all about white supremacists. Well, unfortunately for them, this crosses party lines. There are a lot of Democrats I've spoken to, like, I work every single day. I have a body shop. I've been working my ass off for 20, 30 years. And you're telling me these rats from another country are taking millions? See, forget the pollsters. They're not listening to the people. And only way this works is if you get off X because of whatever they're saying on X, actually talk to people. Go to a barbershop. Hey, man, you been hearing about this? They stole all the money. It's a whole different script to flip. When you're not talking about political stuff, you're talking about people's money because they know what they've gone through. Every single person who's worked, paid taxes, is pissed. So your job is to keep them pissed. Your job is to keep letting them know, hey, they stole some more here. Hey, there's $2 trillion at Pete Buttigieg. People are going to be, I can't take it. I can't, enough. That is most assuredly an insurrection. A widespread insurrection. I showed you the definition of the insurrection a couple days ago. She knows it.
The president has already deployed ICE and other federal law enforcement to these same cities across America. But as much concern as I have about the Caribbean strikes, it's nothing compared to my concern over Trump's full reorientation towards the, quote, enemy within. But
yeah, I got some, they're blowing up people in the Venezuelan boats. Yeah, that bothers me, but nothing compared to him pulling the switch on the Insurrection Act. She's trying to get these people ready. And at the same time, they're probably, people in suits in the audience like, well, what do you expect us to do? See, that's the other part about this. There's only going to be a few people who are going to be really rebellious, the Antifa types. The people in suits, they ain't cut out for this. They're not cut out for it because the more information comes out, there are going to be people looking for their scalps. You ain't going to have to worry about Trump in the military. There's going to be people going, you did what? Going all the way back. I mean, there's people still walking around with anger over, the jabademic. I couldn't see my family because you stole money and you did this just for political gain. Oh, there's a lot of anger. And I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that anger doesn't go to waste. That's my good news. Fuel it. Yeah, man, they did it to you. You've been working for 20 hours at that construction company, and you've been paying your taxes, and they stole it. What are you going to do on April 15th?
Trump has laid out a whole lot of enemies that are American citizens. And if he's willing to use lethal force against enemies abroad, as we've been seeing, what's stopping him from using lethal force against enemies here at home?
Well, I can tell you what that is. Raise your hands, put up the white flag, and everything will be fine. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. They're not going to just go after people walking down the street unless those people walking down the street are looking to do something. Which is what she's probably trying to say. We got our plans as well. And our plans are we're going to have a huge uprising, but we're kind of concerned because you might start picking them off. Well, maybe you should be telling people if they did some bad stuff, now might be the time to come clean. Maybe now you wave the white flag and throw yourself on mercy. Hey, Judge Bo Asperger, they're coming for you. They're most assuredly coming for you. You're a liar. You're a cheat. Hey, all these other judges, there ain't no place to hide. You're not cut out for it. Just as there's many people in our audience who I've said, before, I'm like, you guys aren't ready for this fight. That's not an insult. They ain't ready either. I can tell you Judge Bo Asperger ain't going to be ready to do some fighting. He will fold like a cheap suit. These people got fat and cushy, taking your money. And now all of a sudden, they're going to start talking. They can't go down. Those are the people who might get arrested.
That question should chill every American to the bone. And I'm giving this speech today because I believe that's exactly the plan. I believe that Trump is ready to bring the full weight of the federal government against Americans he perceives as enemies. Why? Because he has one goal: making sure that he and his ilk never have to give up power. Now, to be clear, I don't say this lightly, but I think between the strikes in the Caribbean, his efforts to identify domestic terrorists, and his deployment of force in American cities, that seems to be where we're headed.
All right. Game on. Game friggin' on. She's convinced this is where we're going. This is our opposition. And they're saying, yeah, it looks like they're going to throw a screen pass here. It looks like they're going to throw a bomb. They have done their homework. They have looked at everything to see where things are. They've watched the game film and they're like, oh, poop. He's really going to do it. Yeah, he's going to do it. So you don't need to be surprised. And you need, if you, for some reason, you're one of the people who's like, Pam Bondi ain't got nothing to do with this anymore. You understand when this happens, it's not about Pam Bondi. It's not about Kash Patel. It shifts to the guy that they're afraid of most. Remember way back during his hearing, the guy they're most afraid of is Pete Hegseth. That's the guy right now you need to be watching. You need to be hearing what he says. Forget Pam Bondi. This is way past the Department of Justice. And the reason why it takes people by surprise is because we've never been in this situation. When you're asking about arrest, you're falling back on something that's familiar. Oh yeah, we need to arrest these people. They've done some bad things. You've never lived through an insurrection. If Lincoln was the last person, you've never seen it. There's nothing in your life that is preparing you for what's coming. There is nothing in your life that is going to prepare you for what will happen when he does this and how people who may live across the street from you will act. That's where we are. They know it. You just heard Elise Slotkin say it. There's no other way. There is no other way. We can't vote ourselves out of this. We can't arrest ourselves out of it. You're seeing money in millions and trillions of dollars, and you're realizing there's only one thing he can do. And I believe that one man can do it because he wants to. I believe that they've held him back a little bit because I know someone who's been shot in the head, who has had impeachment trials and dragged through the mud and tried to steal his property. He's more than ready. We just need to be there as well. And when I say be prepared, I'm talking about up here. All right. Total anarchy. That's what I was saying. So I showed you earlier where Iran is worried about their banks tanking. Who knows? Lights go off and things like that. Internet. Just be prepared. I bought a Starlink just in case. It's just sitting there right there in a box just in case we have to pitch it outside. Be ready. Let's see here. Whatever comes, I will go honorably. Exactly. Trump deploys military to these cities because they're blue and ran like a zoo. It ran like a zoo with no lock and cages. Animals running wild. Literally stealing our money left and right. Barry is black, but a realist. Yeah, this had nothing to do with black or white. I've had some people try to point fingers at me. This has nothing to do with black or white. This is American fully. Whether you want to be a commie or you want to be an American. That's all. No color involved. I don't care what color you are. Doesn't matter to me. Unfortunately, most of the people who stole the money and what they did just happened to be of a certain persuasion. I mean, I had posted this earlier. I got a good kick out of it. There was a what do you call it? AI video that had that guy in it, and it just when Robin saw it, she was like, "Oh my God, you didn't put that up." Yeah, I put it up. Yeah, I got none left to give. Not one F left to give. We all work collectively too hard. We have busted our butts for too many years on going, yeah, I'm a boomer. And because I'm a boomer, I know how long it has taken me to do things I had to do. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let some people fresh off a boat just take it from us. Screw that. Screw that big time. See, I wasn't even going to do a show today, but Ashley said, you got to go ahead and do one. You got to, I'm like, Ashley, I'm tired. I'm real tired. But in any event, that's where we are. All right, so let me do super chat so you guys can get out of here. Let's see what we can do tomorrow. Hold on. Okay, I had to shrink it down so it would fit. But yeah, just look into some of this stuff. It's getting crazy. Getting real crazy. All righty. Robin's dragging me to an art show tomorrow. So I get to walk around outside. It's supposed to be a nice day, but we're going to be going to an art show. All right, so let's do this. Let me move this around so I can see. And here we go. All right, so Bukowski, I'm back to school leering some new stuff. Starfleet, we're all leering how to deal with 2026. You guys are funny. Me just leering. Chat room name leering. I don't know if somebody has it. Iguana's leering at the house. I'll take a picture in the morning if they're still out there. Chio Shop. Madami wants to offer free child care. Yep. And health care and home care. That's code for illegal scammers for what is going on in Minnesota and Ohio and California and everywhere else. Bukowski again. You should notify if you find fraud for the 10%. Who should you notify? I will find that out for you. I can't. Cloud 6802. Wait, government needs to cut off funding ASAP. Yes, they do. And they'll sue. I tell you, by next week, some judge will say, oh, you got to keep paying them. Which tells you nothing. That's why you got to do what he's got to do. These judges are corrupt. Melvin, New York, welcome to Star Trek Board Collective. Resistance is futile, ready to be shaped into what government needs, not yours. Exactly. Vielka, New York City is becoming crabs in a barrel. Chiosap, Bernie giving up his millions. Nope. That ain't going to happen. Walz passed a law to offset the government cutting funds. He sure did, but now they got to go after him. Want to make a Dem mad? Tell them the truth. Yeah, and ask them what fair share is. Bukowski, my fair share. Exactly. Cam, Melmont. What's this? Madami is like Michael Scott from The Office. Scott's Tots, where he promised to pay for college and only delivered laptop batteries. Chiosap, we live in pods. Mondani lives in a mansion. Gracie Mansion. Raven Kirkendall, how did you say? I will find out tomorrow or Monday rather how you can report the fraud. Cam Karmathorn, he has to gaslight those who have done well in life so they will stay, and when he can tax them, good luck with that. Spoiler, they're leaving. Oh yeah, they're leaving. Peter Thiel and a bunch of people have moved out of California, and I'm sure we'll be seeing the same thing from people in New York. Kathy Hochul lied. She is raising taxes, Chiosop said. I mean, people who live outside the city are going to be pissed. Chiosop, Dami can do what he wants. Judges with him. Ron Newton, Barry, the answer to understanding Mandami is to understand that the Quran directs Islamic believers to deceive the kuffar, non-believers. That is called the taqiyya. Well said. Well said. Thank you for that. Buddy Sanders, no relation to Bernie. I feel pity for any Jewish person in New York City. Oh, I didn't even get to that. One of his executive orders was repealing a bunch of protection for the Jewish community. Did that right away. Just saying. I expect an influx down here in Boca. I foresee a lot of Jewish lightning soon. Cutting edge. The big problem is that when everything falls apart, everyone will see the big lie since it's a big apple and everyone in the world sees it. I agree. Chiosop. Somalis Dems were operating as if Kamala had won. Mariah, and there are more states involved. Oh, yeah. It's coming. I mean, look at your state. If you can look at your area and dig, watch these websites go down all of a sudden. They never thought people would look. Cutting edge. This is the only way to even audit the NGOs. Tinley, when I realized George Soros is one small potato. Yeah, everybody thought it was Soros. Didn't realize it was you and me. Soros wasn't the one cutting the big checks. You and me were. Brian Newland, I am one pissed off human being. As well you should be. Steve Anderson, Slock and Rubin stole their seats. Election. Fraud. Born on the 4th, Barry, Happy New Year to you, your wonderful team, and fine people in your chat. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you as well. I always call this the grinding time. I mean, we've got Washington or President's Day in a couple weeks, but after that, it's grind. Nothing until like 4th of July. Let's see, what's that? February? Nope. March, April. Well, yeah, no, that's it. We got to grind. KPK, read Washington's warning in his farewell letter as president. He says a party will give in to greed and allow foreign influence to take over. I will look that up and get that as part of a next show. Sue Ray, thank you very Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, and thank you as well. All right, everybody, it's 8:45. I hope you have a very good evening, and we will talk maybe tomorrow. I see what Robin's got in store. And if she lets me, I will turn on. Thank you guys for everything.
Fan.